as we celebrate Women's Day, we are celebrating powerful women, and who better than the CMD of Biocon, Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, who's joining me. Many thanks for joining me. A trailblazer, billionaire entrepreneur, and somebody who is inspiring women across the globe. Ms. Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, many thanks for joining us. Firstly, how do you look at Women's Day? Because, some also say that every day is Women's Day, really, so we don't really need one day to celebrate the day.
Well, it's about calling out the cause to recognize women who really need that spotlight on a particular day so that it reminds us of the importance of women in the economic mainstream and in many, many other realms of our economic sectors. I just think it's important to have a day that reminds us of the importance and of the role that women play in society.
Okay, absolutely. Let's talk about your story, because it's been an inspiration, an absolute inspiration for women all along the way. When you set out to do what you were, I've seen some of your interviews where you've also spoken about the fact that this is not something that you had thought of. When you planned Biocon, it was not something you thought of. Was there ever a moment where you thought, I need to do something? Was it about, proving something perhaps, or how did it all start out? Tell us your journey in your own words.
I've always believed that an educated woman has the responsibility to pursue a career. And, obviously I was trying to pursue a very, very difficult career in a man's world, which was brewing. And when I didn't get a job, it was an accidental encounter that got me to start my own biotech company. And that was in 1978. And I think, what the message I want to give to women who are listening to your show is that it is very important, especially for the educated woman, to make sure that she pursues a career path and doesn't waste that education. That's what I've always believed in. And I've also believed that if women are actually included in the economic mainstream, it actually doubles the per capita income in our country. So I think that is a very important economic indicator of progress. And that is why I'm so passionate about the women's agenda and making sure that there is gender inclusivity in economic development.
Absolutely. We'll discuss more on that. But when you started out, you were just 25 when you started the company. And even when we talk about advancement and women empowerment today, starting a company at 25 is something that not many can do for whatever reasons. So how was it? Was there ever a moment that you thought that, yes, this is what I want to do? Or was it something that happened very organically?
Well, as I said, I was an accidental entrepreneur. At 25, I was trying to get a job. I think it was young enough to get a job. But it wasn't at that time a time for an entrepreneurial role. Because today, of course, startups have very young people. You have people younger than 25-year-olds starting up companies today. But in 1978, it was quite unusual to start a company at the age of 25. And I think, it was an accidental encounter that got me to start a company. And as I told you, I didn't get a job and therefore I started my own company. But I think what I wanted to really, talk about was the huge credibility challenge that women had in the late 70s. And how many of those credibility challenges exist even today, I was considered to be a high-risk entrepreneur by banks. Banks didn't want to lend to me. A, because I was too young, and B, because they felt I was trying to start a business that nobody understood. So I was considered to be a high financial risk by banks. People didn't want to work for me because in those days, women employers were considered high risk and for some reason were considered not to provide job security. And then, of course, I had this whole credibility of, will I succeed in my business? And, it was difficult to basically sell a concept that nobody understood. So it was a pretty challenging time for me. And it took me almost 5 or 6 years before I could really show and demonstrate some levels of success.
Okay.
I think the prejudice and the bias against women as high financial risks, as being a high financial risk, continues even today. I know that many women who found startups tell me that they find it very difficult to access capital, just like I did, 4 decades ago. And they seem to be having the same problems today because I think there is a general bias because most of the VCs are men. And also men are more comfortable basically projecting themselves as good entrepreneurs. Women need to gain that confidence. So I think that challenge of proving themselves to be equally capable of running businesses exists even today. For some reason, there's an unfair bias that exists amongst VCs that seems to suggest that men are better risk takers than women, and that's not true. I mean, I've taken the biggest risk in my sector, and I think a lot of women startups are taking big risks as well. In terms of attracting talent, I think it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It's about your business, it's about your idea, it's about how people feel excited about what you're doing, because that's what I learned during my entrepreneurial journey. So I think these kind of unfair biases exist even today, but I think there's a much better opportunity for women to avail of venture capital and seed funding and risk capital, because the government system actually is pretty fair. It is agnostic to gender. And I think at least at the starting phase, I think women have an equal opportunity. But as they funnel into the market, I think that's where women are much more challenged.
Okay, but how does one overcome such a challenge? Is it more to do with attitudes? Because this could start at home as well. Were there challenges that you faced at home when you were starting out? Perhaps your parents, your brothers saying, no, this might not be for you. And do you think that is the biggest challenge for women today?
Well, I think my biggest support was my family. And I think as long as family supports women, they actually provide a huge amount of moral support, and it's actually a huge morale booster when family supports women in business. So I think, or in a career for that matter. So I think my message is families must support their women. My mother, who's almost 90 years old, runs her own business today. And she got inspired by what I was doing. And at the late age of 65, after my father passed away, she decided to start her own business just to keep herself busy. And today she's so engaged and so driven by what she's doing that I think age is not a barrier. It's an attitude. It's what you want to do with your life. I find a lot of women sort of justify saying that we are a homemaker and a homemaker's job is as important as an entrepreneur's job. And I don't agree with them because I think they're all educated. They ought to be doing something. I know so many women who run families and pursue a career. So I don't at all excuse women who don't work with that excuse that they're raising a family. By all means, take a year or two off, but don't then justify a stay-at-home mom's role as being as important as someone who works, because it isn't. You may choose to stay at home, but let me tell you, a woman with a career is doing a far more responsible job than just raising a family.
Absolutely. But, you spoke about how you were also seen as a high-risk entrepreneur of changing attitudes as well. Does that happen even now? Do you see, was there a specific point where you saw that, people, when did you know that, people are looking at me very differently and also other entrepreneurs very differently?
I think, it's about demonstrating demonstrating success and walking the talk. It's really about that. As soon as people see that, they start changing their views, they start investing in you, and they start promoting you. So I think all women need to understand, just like all men need to understand, that until you demonstrate success, until you prove yourself, obviously there will be this big question mark. So I don't think there's any difference for a man and a woman when it comes to an entrepreneurial venture, because you might have got more VC investment in your company than a woman. But at the end of the day, if you don't deliver, I don't think you're going to be able to take that business to a much higher level. And if a woman who might have got a lower capital injection, but if she can show that she's doing a better job of her business, she will be able to attract more money later on. So I think it's about demonstrating your ability to deliver.
Okay, all right. And coming to a little more, personal side of it, you're somebody who's also extremely involved, especially in issues in Bengaluru as well. You're very vocal, political or not. You're somebody who has always spoken your mind. So, do you think that it hampers in what you do? Something that everybody knows that you're going to be extremely vocal about it. Is that another side, as you see?
Why should it hamper? I'm saying it for the good of society. I'm saying it for the good of the people. Why should it hamper? And I think today, for instance, we've just learned the news that Bangalore is considered to be the most livable city in India.
Yes.
But, I'm still critical of the government, because look, we can be a world-class city if the government did its job. Today we are a livable city, I largely think, because of citizens groups. We are a very engaged citizenry in Bangalore. And I think because of that, you're seeing at least a lot of good things happen. And I just think if government bodies did their job as well, I think we would be a much better city than we are today. But you can see, we have a abysmal BBMP, which has also been called out as being a very poor BBMP. Why is it that government does not call up BBMP? We've been talking about breaking up BBMP so that they can at least function and be more efficient. But politics gets in the way of everything. I think what is really, hampering progress in Karnataka, it's the politics, not the policies. We have great policies, but those policies are not rolled out because of people focusing too much time on politics.
Absolutely. So in terms of infrastructure, there are a lot more things that can be done in Bengaluru. We are getting a lot of investments, but our heart might be in the right place, but not enough being done on ground. But another factor, of course, because of coronavirus as well, a lot that we are seeing changing, the way that we are living has also changed completely after coronavirus. Do you see it as a more challenging time for women per se because of coronavirus and the challenges that it has thrown up?
Actually, coronavirus, plays to the advantage for women, right? Because I think the remote working model that has come up because of coronavirus, I think helps women to basically perform a dual function of working and looking after or staying at home. So I think moving ahead, we are going to have a hybrid model of a remote working model combined with the on-site working model. And that's only going to help women. So I think the COVID-19 pandemic has actually brought a number of new models that will actually help women. Whether it's having an interview like this without being in your studio, or whether it's a remote working model from home, I think everyone benefits.
Absolutely. And, on a very personal note, I also want to ask you, we all know you as, the entrepreneur and somebody who is very passionate about civic issues. But otherwise, how does Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw like to unwind? What is it that you do when you want to unwind after a hard day at work?
Well, I have very little time to unwind, because these days, because of this virtual world that we are on, my day doesn't finish till 11 o'clock at night, because I'm constantly in these kind of meetings from morning till night, because I almost try to sort of engage with various people across the world, and so it's difficult to find time to unwind. So I guess the weekends are the only time I have to unwind. And my way of unwinding has always been with my family and friends. So that's the only way I unwind. And, I'm looking forward to, the time when I can actually travel.
Okay, so now travel, because of coronavirus, has put a stop to that. So looking forward to normalcy returning.
That's right.
All right. So, lastly, your message to the women, all the girls out there watching, anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, women in general, and of course to the men as well, more importantly, because, the first attitude change would come from them. So, what would be your advice?
Well, my advice is look, uh, go for it. Go for anything you want to do. It doesn't have to be an entrepreneurial role, it can be a career. It can be, of course, setting up your own small business or joining a startup company or being having your aspirations of being a very large entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what it is, but believe in your idea, believe in yourself, and go for it.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Kiran Mazumdar, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.